That was so weird. I'll tell you guys, I was streaming, but Slobs for some reason was sending it to a private stream. That was so weird. I tried it, I had to start and stop it like 8 times. Thank goodness I realized before I like actually tried to stream. I like went to I checked the stream on a different computer and I'm like, what the heck, I'm not streaming. What's going on here? But I think it's fixed now, so let's hope this doesn't get any worse. See you guys in a second. Sorry about that. That was so weird. Like, Slobs thought it was streaming to the right stream, so it was getting you guys' chat, but if I actually went on YouTube, it was the wrong, I was streaming to the wrong stream. So strange. So strange. I'm having a whole litany of issues today, I'll tell you. And I'm gonna vamp for about another 4 minutes or so that you guys, if you haven't already installed Stencil, go to the link in the description and install Stencil, okay? Because you won't be able to follow along without Stencil. So I'm gonna vamp for about a few minutes, okay? So you can install Stencil if you haven't already. Boy, I'm having a rough week. I will tell you. I will tell you. I mean, if you guys saw my Bakano stream the other day, you'll know. On every level, including physical, I am having a rough week. Oh boy. But aren't we all in these times? Aren't we all having a rough week? Especially you people who are very frantically installing Stencil right now, I'm sure. I didn't know that the last time I did one of these game coding streams it would be, you know, so popular. So I decided to do another one. I thought, you know, it makes sense to do this sort of structure where I incrementally teach you guys more difficult engines and how they work. And then eventually you'll just be coding. I mean, that's kind of how it works. Honestly, that's literally how I learned. And it works pretty good, especially if you're doing self-taught. It makes sense to, you know, make these little projects and these little engines. Good, already installed, good, good. But yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I hate Stencil. I've made games in Stencil before, and it's definitely doable. And actually, Stencil is will I stream an Unreal tutorial someday? Oof, I don't know, maybe. Yeah, no. Trust me, this will be far more interesting if you try to follow along, believe me. Yeah, Stencil... Even when I tweeted about it, actually, someone was like, whenever I use Stencil, I just get a ton of errors. Yes, expect a lot of crashing. Oh, good, wonderful. Yes, download Stencil, install Stencil, join the Stencil cult. Gosh, I really don't like Stencil at all. I had to use it for a class in college where they didn't expect you to know how to code, but of course, I do know how to code, so it was kind of annoying. But Stencil is it's less limited than you think it would be based on looking at it and playing around with it. It is actually a powerful is not the right word. Powerful is not the right word for stencil, but it's it can do a lot of it can do more than meets the eye. It can do more than meets the eye. You can do some pretty interesting stuff with it. It has a lot of capabilities. But today we're just gonna be making a pretty similar game to last week, where we just kind of like Snake or anything like that. Just because it gives you it's a very simple game, but it does go through like a lot of the basic stuff. But maybe we'll go a little bit farther with stencil today, depending on how long it takes us, because it might take us quite a while. It might take us quite a while to do anything really in stencil. That's kind of the nature of it. But I'm ready to take this plunge, and I'm ready to try to teach you guys some stuff. The good thing about stencil is that it has a lot more features that are like one-to-one with other game engines like Unity or Unreal and stuff like that. So it is definitely a good stepping stone. It's definitely a good stepping stone. I actually kind of think that if I then did RPG Maker after this, RPG Maker is kind of a step down, but I will do an RPG Maker stream eventually. I did buy it on my Switch, even though I have not used it on my Switch once yet. Okay, I think I've done enough is it vamping? Yeah, I've done enough vamping. I'm gonna try to teach you guys some stuff about stencil and how it works. I was hoping that it would have gotten better, because I went on the site and they were like, oh, new stencil. It has not gotten any better. It has not gotten a lick better. It's exactly the same as when I used it many years ago. So let's do this. Let's do this. So you might think, let's create a new game. Click here to create a new game. Very simple. And it's gonna be a blank game. So next, I'm just gonna call this video game. It's a video game. I'm just gonna stick with the default 640 by 480 pixels. It's very small, but I'm kind of working on a small screen here, but you're free to make it however size you want. So we have our video game. Now it's asking us about scenes. This concept doesn't really exist in Scratch. When we did Scratch the other day, or last week, I guess. But a scene is essentially a level or a screen. So like a menu or a level. So we're gonna create a new level scene. Oh wait, can you not see? Oh yeah, you can't even see my little pop-ups. Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but that's just how it's gonna be. I'm gonna name my scene Scene 1. And I'm just gonna leave the rest of it default. It says like 20 tiles, 15 tiles, 32 pixels, and solid color I'm gonna keep white. Everything else I'm gonna just keep totally basic. And so we have our first scene. And there's layer 0, kind of like RPG Maker and other game engines like it. You put items on different layers, just like Photoshop or any drawing program. You can put different items on different layers. I'm pretty sure that things will only interact with things that are on the same layer, but maybe this is just to like control things that are on top. Can't fully remember, to be honest. This also is very similar to RPG Maker in that you can choose what type of object you're messing with on the scene. And there's also, you can draw various stuff for, I don't have any actors right now, so it's not really doing anything. There's this concept called a region or a territory, or not a territory, a terrain. But first things first, we want to create a new actor. I mentioned this in the stencil stream. Actors are basically every object that's in your game. The player is an actor. Every item is an actor. Even something like if you had like a system, or like if you had like something that you wanted to manage the score, that would be on an actor. An actor is just any entity in your game. So let's create new actor type, and of course I've got a little pop-up here that just asks me for the name, and I'm just gonna name it player. Create. So this actor type contains no animations. Stencil does something that I actually quite like, in that it sort of works with the animations and goes down from there. It's kind of a philosophy that I also use a lot when I do Unity. So we're gonna click here and add an animation. Gonna add a frame. Actually, no, we're not gonna add a frame. Sorry, cancel that. Don't click here to add a frame. We're gonna click create frame external. And that is going to bring up a dialogue probably that says, do you want to install Pixelator? And the answer is yes, and it should take like less than a minute to install. And what this is it's basically just a very, very, very simple image, processing program, editor, whatever you want to call it. And it will allow us to just very quickly draw an image, 1 second, that we want to use for our player. There we go. Up, my camera, please, for the love of God. I told you I've been having a rough day. Well, this is perfect timing because now you can download Pixelator. Please connect to my camera. I beg you. This has happened to me so much since the new update. The new VTube Studio update. Here we go. Come on, connect. Please. Anyways, once you have the how do you open Pixelator? Back on, it should just open automatically when you click Create Frame External. Down here it says Create Frame External. When you click on it, it should just open Pixelator, and if you don't have it, which you probably wouldn't, it'll ask you if you want to install it, and you do. And boy howdy, my camera is still not connecting. Oh, wait. And for the player, I'm first of all, I'm gonna make it a little taller. Because I'm gonna draw a little stick figure person. And then I'm just gonna hit edit, enter. Okay, that didn't do a gosh darn thing, now did it? I am multitasking to the extreme right now. Okay, well, maybe I'll try to just crop it this way. I think it'll be kind of too small, but whatever. Okay, that's fine. Zoom it in. And draw my little pixel guy. Wop. 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 And then just click Control Save to save it. And when you go back to your program, it'll just be there. Oh my gosh, finally. Sorry about that. Now I can see my beautiful face. So yeah, we have one frame here. If you would like, you can do exactly the same thing again by clicking Create Frame External. And creating a frame 2. Perhaps a little walking animation. Control Save. And now we have these two, and you can see here over in the corner what it's going to look like. This is moving a bit fast, so I'm going to double click on it, and it's going to give me a little pop-up where I can change it to 200 milliseconds instead of 100 milliseconds, because 200 milliseconds is a little fast, or 100 milliseconds is a little fast. So now you can see it here. I'm going to Control Save. Up here in the top left, you'll see all of the tabs that you have open. For every object, including like a scene, a player, or like a scene, an object, a script, anything will have its own tab up here. Any entity will have its own tab. So we can just quickly go through all of our stuff here by clicking on the tabs. So we want to go back to the scene, and we want to click on our player, and it will now give me a little player to place. I can just click it and put it on the scene. If you want, you can put a ton. I think that actually that's kind of funny. You can also test your game by clicking test scene. Test game will run the whole game. Test scene will just run this scene. So if, for instance, you had like a main menu that opens up your game, it will just play this scene instead of opening up the full game. And here you go. Oh, wait, can you see it? No, you can't see it. Lovely. Up there it is. Just took a second. So we have a bunch of our walking guys here. Obviously, we haven't done anything. We haven't written any code. We haven't chosen any options. So they just sort of stand there. And we can't do anything with them. Kind of reminds me of that game, that iPhone game, Hidden Folks. Kind of like that. Okay, enough of that. Let's actually do something, shall we? So, every entity also has this list of not attributes, I don't know what you'd say, categories, tabs up here that you can apply to it. So, here's the scene itself, here's the object itself, but you can also attach behaviors to the object, which we'll talk about in a second. This is a feature of Stencil that I very much enjoy. Behaviors are essentially pre-written scripts that you can just attach and then you don't have to do it. You just skipped a bunch of work. It's great. Events is where you'll find some very familiar imagery. If you used Scratch with me last week, it'll look pretty much exactly the same. And it is exactly the same. It's just got a few more options like game attributes and attributes. Physics, which is just, gravity, pretty much. Don't worry about atlases. Just don't worry about it. Not even required or necessary. Properties will bring up a little pop-up box with all of the attributes that you created the object with in the first place. So if, for instance, we go to the player tab and we go to behaviors and we click here to choose a behavior to attach to this actor type. You guys can't see it because why would you be able to? Sorry. Oh, I'm not gonna share my screen, so I'm just sharing the window, but in your pop-up, you'll see all kinds of options like controls, eye candy, game, GUI, motion, rules, and utilities. And because this is our player, let's click on controls. On controls, you'll see some stuff like 2-way horizontal movement, 2-way vertical movement, 4-way movement, 8-way movement, etc., etc., etc. Because this is our player, let's just give him some 8-way movement, okay? And then it applies this behavior that is just like a bunch of pre-written code for us. We don't even have to worry about it. So behaviors are just things that are very, very common in video games that you can just apply to it. Usually a lot of motion stuff, usually. And so we can apply some controls. So for up control, we obviously want it to be up. Down control, we want it to be down. Left is left. Right is right. Speed is 30 is perfectly fine. We don't have to worry about this right now. If we made other animations, we could then apply them to the different directions. So if you go back to appearance, you can actually see that this animation that we created, which is just called animation 0 by default, we could name that idle or maybe movement, or something like that. And then we could click the plus at the bottom left here and create a new animation. And then this animation could be like moving right, walking right, and then we could do another animation, walking left, and etc., etc., etc. And we just name it appropriately. And then when we want to actually use it, I'm just gonna remove that animation I created. When we want to actually use it, we can reference it in this little motion behavior. I don't have any of those things. I'm not gonna bother with it right now. I just gave you all the explanation you need. So it's really that simple. Events, we don't want to do anything right this second. We don't really care. But like I said, this is going to be scripting. Another important thing, collision. Our scene tab didn't have collision, but because our actor type is an object, it'll need collision. I'm sure if you have ever played any fighting game, you're aware of this concept. Now, what's infinitely annoying is that as far as I can tell, you can't just drag the box corners or anything. You have to manually change the values, which, wow. Very good game engine. Super user-friendly. So I'm just gonna mess with the values here until it matches the actual size of my player character. Let's lower the height just a little bit to like 55, I guess. That's a little bit too much. Your values will probably change, be completely different. But for this is how it works for me. Now, there's some other very interesting things in this collision tab, especially under physical properties. It has a little checkbox that says, "Is this a sensor?" This is actually a one-to-one comparison with Unity. Unity does this exact thing, and I don't think Unreal does this. And what this does is, basically it says, yes, this is a collision box, but I don't want this collision box to actually like be a physical object. I just want it to be there for like, oh, perfect example, Mario coins. When you hit a Mario coin, you don't get pushed by it, but the game knows that you picked it up. So that's exactly the same thing. So if I were to say like, is this a sensor? He would just like fall through the floor because he's not colliding against anything. Is a sensor is for things where you want to detect that there was a collision between two objects, but you don't want one of the objects to actually have a physical collision with anything. And so the thing that you don't want to collide with anything, for instance, the Mario coin, would be a sensor. Another very helpful thing here in the physical properties, group. In Unity, this is called a physics layer. And if I clicked edit group, it would give me a bunch of collision groups I could choose from, or I could just choose a collision group from the drop down, but you can create collision groups yourself. And this basically allows you to make it so that, for instance, this is another Mario example, because who doesn't know Mario? You don't want your enemies to be picking up coins. So you would have your enemies in one group, and your player in one group, and your coin in a third group. And you would then in Stencil be able to say, I want my player and the coins to be able to collide, but I don't want the coins and the enemies to collide. And it's just a much quicker way of, because you're gonna have a ton of different kinds of enemies, you might have different kinds of coins. It's much quicker to just put them in groups rather than having to create all this special logic for it. So that's exactly what that's for. If we click physics, what kind of actor type determines whether the actor type can move or not. Normal, just you can move. Cannot move and cannot be pushed. So cannot move is like, it just can't move. It's just a static object. Cannot be pushed is in reference to it can move, but nothing can move it. So like we would move it, but other things wouldn't be able to affect it. So platforms wouldn't be able to affect it. What it means by platforms is it means like in Mario, like moving platforms. So other things, it would basically push everything else, but nothing else would be able to move it. Can rotate. I'm actually going to turn that off because I don't really want him to be able to rotate back and forth. And affected by gravity is currently turned on, which is going to be interesting. I have a feeling he's just going to start falling when we start the game. There's other tabs here. Heaviness. This is all kinds of physics properties that are pretty self-explanatory if you get to that point, but it's definitely not important right now. Oh, auto scale collision bounds. That's interesting, but I'm not going to worry about it. And then finally, properties is again just the things that you set up the actor with. So let's go back to our, let's control save this because it had a little star up here. Each individual object needs to be saved individually. And now let's click test scene. Now let's click test scene now that we've added this movement behavior onto our player. It's compiling, it says. Stencil takes so long to compile, it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, here we go. Now I'm gonna wait for OBS to catch up. Come on, OBS, you got this. You got the, there we go. Okay. I've clicked on it. Now let's click my arrows. The hive mind. The hive mind is activated. Wop wop wop. Look at him go. Look, they can go diagonal because we chose 8-way movement. Up, down, left, right. Whee. Perfect. Very helpful. An interesting thing about stencil, which is just a stencil feature, I don't really get it, is if they go off screen, they despawn. That's a stencil thing. I'm sure it's a setting somewhere, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. So we're done with that. Let's go back to our game. Let's start talking about well, let's make an apple first, okay? We're gonna make a little snake kind of thing. Let's make an apple. So we want to create a new actor, create actor type. I thought that was a bug. It's just a feature of stencil. I didn't look too hard to find out where it is. So I just created an apple object. I'm gonna create a new animation, create frame, exactly like how we did before. And I'm just gonna draw, maybe not an apple, maybe... Whop. Whop. Oh, how cute. How cute. Control save. And there it is. And I'm not gonna create any other frames. I just don't really care. It's because the earth is flat and they fell off the edge. Not wrong. Not wrong in this case, honestly. Looping, yeah. Behaviors. We don't have any behaviors for it. Events, collision. Collision we do need. Hello, Peter. Are you gonna learn stencil with us today? Oh, by the way, as far as the collision go, oh, you guys can't see it. There it is. As far as the collision goes, you can choose to make a little bit more complex of a shape as opposed to a box or a circle by clicking Add Polygon. Add Polygon is finicky and buggy. I recommend using it sparingly. In this case, I'm just going to create a circle. Make it a little smaller. Did I go too far? 8? It's close enough. Honestly, collision doesn't have to be perfect. Unless you're making a fighting game, it's fine. It's fine. I don't want this to be able to move at all, so I'm just turning off cannot move. I don't want any physics for it. Control save, and bring my apple back to the scene. I have the pencil type turned on, but for instance, if I chose this little green grid here, well, maybe I'm completely incorrect. I thought I'd be able to drag it and create a bunch of it, but I'm wrong. I guess that's not how it works. Insert column is for, usually stencil makes side-scrolling games. So insert column adds a column, adds a width to the scene, not the screen. The screen will still be still end here. But if you wanted to make a platformer or a side scroller or anything like that, obviously you would want more world happening. So this allows you to very, very quickly extend the size of your world horizontally. And I believe you can change this to be like insert vertical. Yeah, insert row, remove column. Here we go. Perfect. Instead of having to change, the settings of the scene and everything. It's much easier to just be able to use this tool right here. Add stick joint. I haven't messed with this. I'm assuming this will connect to objects together, constrain two objects together in a physics sense, but I'm not gonna mess with it right now, to be honest. We don't really need regions or terrains at the moment. But anyways, let's place our hearts. Boop, boop. Cute. And let's play this scene. Let's test this scene. Let's see how far we've gotten. Let's see what this does. What do you guys expect to happen? We have these hearts here that have collision bodies on them. We have players that have collision bodies on them. The hearts cannot move, but the players can move. So what's gonna happen when we run the player into the heart? The heart pushes the player. Because the heart cannot move. It's a static object. And you might expect, well, why is it colliding with the heart at all? That's because we did not set the heart to be a sensor. And that's what we're going to do. Ah, look at them. Let's see. Let's see if I can group them all together. I want to see if I can mush them all together. Close, close. Oh, I can't. Well, that's as close as I'm gonna get because the players run into each other, but... And we lost one man, but... You know, as an army, we're stronger together. So, enough of that. So, we're gonna go back into the Apple tab, back to collision, and click is a sensor. So now, what do we expect to happen when we play the game? Now that we've checked is a sensor. How did that change things? Come on, OBS, you got this. There we go. Now, they just go over them. But we still needed that collision because we're still going to want to know when we touch the heart. If we had no collision, we wouldn't be able to know when we touched the heart. But obviously, we haven't written any functionality for that yet. So, you know, when it touches the heart, nothing happens. Let's work on that. Let's go into player and go into events. Events being scripting. And let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. This is the fun part. This is the game coding. Everything up to this was just precursor. This is the game coding. So, the way Stencil works is very similar to Scratch. They call them events. And I think it's a little bit more apt here. There's all kinds of events you can choose from. The basics, as one might expect, is the most common events you would use. So when creating means when the object is created. When drawing means every frame. And when updating just means like that could be more than once a frame. That's usually for physics. That's kind of like a physics update. When drawing is pretty much anything you want to put on the screen. So animations, UI, any kind of drawing stuff. But when updating might not necessarily sync to the frames. So that's why when drawing is a little bit more appropriate perhaps for those kinds of things. Then we've got input, so like when a key is pressed, or focus is like when your mouse is over an object. This is I think. And then you know, a lot of these are kind of self-explanatory. Time after n seconds from the start. Paused. Actors. So when a certain kind of actor is created or dies, when a certain kind of actor, for instance, when it says type, it means the fact that we have multiple players in the scene, multiple player actors, it means the player type. That's what that means. But like we mentioned before, you can also put them into groups. So you can also do it by group, and then specific actor would be if we wanted to choose one of those players. So one player, all players, anything in the player or group, the default group, the actor group. I can't remember what group player's in right now. But we're here to do some collisions. So collision, when a type of actor collides with a type of actor. Here it is. That's what we want, because it's when we want a player actor collides with a heart type actor. We could, well, Yeah, that's pretty much what we want. So when we select this, it will create this new thing here, which we can actually rename, and we probably will want to rename. We want to rename it to player collect part. What this is this is a function. This is basically a default function that Stencil will call when something happens, and of course that when is, you know, when an actor type hits an actor type. Definitely, by the way, you definitely need to rename these, because you're gonna end up, when you make a full game, you're gonna end up with a huge list of events. So for this, we want to choose actor type, and then I'm gonna choose player. So when a player hits a choose actor type apple, we want this stuff to happen. So what do we want to happen? Well, we want our score to go up, right? But we haven't created a score. That's not a concept that exists yet. We're gonna create a score game attribute. This stencil calls variables attributes. I can't remember what they were called in. I think they were called variables or values in Scratch, but it's a variable. So an attribute can be anything. It can be an actor. It can be a number. It can be a Boolean. We talked about Booleans right last time. A Boolean is just a value that can be either true or false. So I'm gonna go to game attributes, which just means attributes that are global to the whole game. And I'm gonna create new game attribute. So the types are number, text, Boolean, list, or map. And I want to create I'm gonna call it score. It's gonna be in category default. I don't really care about the default right now. And it is a number. The score is a number. And its initial value is gonna be 0. So now we have this little score box here that we can use when we want. Another feature of Stencil that I quite enjoy is that they do call them getters and setters. And that's exactly what we call them in programming as well. What a getter is it will get you the value of a variable or the value of something. That's all it means. That's all it means. That's what it is. A setter means it will set the value. So if we had a bunch of game attributes, going to getter would give you a huge list of these purple boxes with different variable names, and setters would do the same, but setting the values. So when a player collides with an apple, we want to set the score to what? What do we want to set the score to? Well, we want to increase the score by 1. And what that means is we want to go to numbers and text and say, you know, number plus number, and drag that into the box. And then go back to our game attributes and get score. So set score to score plus 1. So every time we hit an apple, our score will go up. Simple. Easy. Easy breezy cover girl. If we played the game right now, we would have absolutely no idea what our score is because it's not on the screen. Scratch was very helpful in that it just showed our variables on the screen. But unfortunately, Stencil is a little bit more highbrow than that, less helpful. They don't want to just hand you the answer. That would be too millennial. Stencil's a boomer. It's gonna make everything hard for you. So, in order to show our score, we're gonna have to add a new event. And I'm gonna call this event, by the way, this doesn't necessarily have to be on player. All the stuff I'm writing so far could be on any object. Scene comes to mind, because scene's kind of like the global in this instance. But I'm just putting on player because it has to do with player. So, add event when drawing, because it's something I'm drawing it onto the screen, so when drawing. There's a handy little box called drawing. By the way, I didn't go over all of these boxes much because I did in my Scratch video. Maybe I will. Maybe I will right now. Maybe I will in a second. I'll do that in a second, actually. So in the drawing category, it says draw text, because we're trying to draw text. We're trying to draw a number. And I drag that over and I go get my game attribute score. The text I want to draw is score. And I'm just gonna choose 1010. That'll be up in the top left corner. So it's gonna write my score in the top left corner. So let's double check. Let's double check that I did all this right. Oh, cancel. Test game. Also, always be saving. Abs. Stencil is a fickle mistress. Stencil will just crash on you. Oh, interesting. Actually, it's not working as I expected. What do you think went wrong? What went wrong here? Do you see? Oh, chaos. Chaos. Look at that. So when I said drawing, it did it in the space of the player. And I mentioned before that technically you could put this logic on any actor, but obviously that kind of bit us in the ass. Well, okay, I'm gonna tell you why it worked for you, Jorge. It worked for you because you didn't put it on the player object. You put it on the scene object. That's the difference. Oh, you can't see what I just circled. You put it on the scene object. I put mine on the player object. I should have put it on the scene object. And actually, Stencil does this very handy thing where I can just copy and paste it. So let's go back to scene, behaviors, and then paste. Oh no, you're not gonna let me just paste it? Come on. Oh no, I accidentally chose behaviors. It needs to be in events. Okay, there we go. Paste. So let's go and delete the one from actor. And by the way, you can disable them as well. This little checkbox here just makes it does not do anything, but I'm just gonna delete it. Okay, save. So now when I click test scene, it should hopefully do what I want. Let's find out. I'm gonna drink some water. I already drank 2 Beppises today. I don't need any more Beppis. Now is doing what we want. The score is in the top left corner because when I was drawing, the space I was drawing in was the scene, not the player. Now it's not attached to the player in any way. And when I run over a heart, the score just goes up. Of course it does, because every update, it's checking, hey, am I colliding with this thing? Yes. Score up. Oh no, not my camera again. What did I say? I said this camera has been messing up all day, all week. It's ridiculousness. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna restart the server. Hopefully that fixed it. This will give you a chance to play around with your game a little bit. Maybe catch up if you're confused or behind. I'm judging you. Come on, camera. Come on, Buttercup. Come on. That's the most obscure reference I've ever made. That's a reference to one scene in season 6 of Great British Bake Off. Am I connected to 2 networks right now? What is going on? But I find Stencil's version of events is quite a bit more helpful, descriptive, handy than Scratch's. It gives you... Stencil was made to be the bridge between a game engine like Scratch and something a little bit more complicated. It's its purpose. It's made... Oh, finally my camera's back. Oh my god. Okay. So, like I was saying, Stencil was made to be the bridge. So they're at surface level. Oh my gosh. Okay, gosh. For a second, I was gonna lose my mind that my camera disconnected again. Okay. It allows you to, once you kind of understand the basics of Stencil, it allows you to make stuff like platformers and things along that line very quickly. Very quickly. It was made to make platformers and like bullet hell kind of stuff, and you know, 2D side-scrolling games very quickly. And that's exactly what we're doing, so it's great. Obviously it can't do 3D. And actually even you can publish it to different web options, HTML5, Chrome Web Store, and even your phone. You can publish this to you know, iOS and Android, but of course you have to pay money for that, so we don't care. Next thing. We noticed that when we hit it, our score just kept going up. Just kept going up. So we don't want that to happen. We want the heart to disappear. We want to destroy the heart. That sounded really sad. Oh, this calls it kill. We want to kill the heart. When we touch it. So the way we do that is we use the kill box, the kill box. And right here it very handily gives us a little shorthand to get to the actual players or actors that are involved. So the first actor would be player, the second actor would be Apple. So the second actor just killed the second actor. So, save. Now when we test the game, I think it should behave exactly like we expect. There it is. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Dun 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 bum bum bum. There we go. Boop. Although even interesting. Very interesting. Did you notice that it went up 6 every time? Did you notice that it went up 6 every time? And it's for a very similar reason as before, which is that, close, this little script, it's not because of the time. It's because this script that we wrote is on every player actor. And there's 6 player actors. So when any player actor hits an apple, all 6 of these actors will have this script run. So that's why the score went up by 6. Alternatively, we could have it, well, there's a couple ways we could do this, actually. I was hoping we could grab self. I was hoping we could say when self hits an apple. Surely that must be an option. This actor collides with, here we go, this is what we want. Or no, this is still not what we want. Because this actor collides with any actor. We want this actor collides with, well, I guess that's not an option. That's a little frustrating. Yeah, I see, that's why in mine the score went up by 4. Exactly. I may have accidentally created these bugs, but they're very educational. So yeah, it's a little frustrating that we can't just say when self hits an apple, because normally that's how you would program this. But that's not an option. So instead, we're going to move this logic to the scene. Like exactly like how we did before. Scene, behaviors, events. Paste it in here. Because there's only one scene. Only one scene can be active at a time. And just remove that from the player. So now, save. When we run the scene, I'm gonna grab my water. Sorry, I choked in my water a little bit. Okay. Oh, let's try this now. Boop. Up by 1. Boop. Boop. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Ah. Oh. We've made a video game. Goodbye. 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 Only one remains. Okay. Let's see. Now I think I'll go over all of this scripting stuff because you guys came here to learn about coding. I'm gonna teach you about coding. Everything here has a one-to-one version in actual programming. And the only difference is that some of these are quicker, easier, shorthand for doing kind of complicated things. For instance, notoriously, collision is quite difficult when you're programming from scratch, but here it's not. We just have to choose all the collision stuff. Oh, we haven't even been an hour yet. Oh, we're making much better time than I thought. Bye. If by the way, this is kind of this is gonna kind of be review from my last Scratch stream. So if you didn't watch the Scratch video, or if you did watch the Scratch video, you probably don't need to. Maybe you need a refresher. This is all very important information after all. It's very important that you learn this stuff. So the basis, one of the basic it's so foundational, it's the dirt. If you're building a house, this is the dirt. Is an if statement. An if statement in Booleans, which I mentioned before, and you probably said, boo what? Boo what? What? Boolean? What's going on here? So an if statement is just exactly like the English phrasing. It means if this thing is true, do the stuff that's inside the box. And so do if what is true. Like what does that mean? And here we have a whole section. It's called Booleans and comparisons and all these things. And it gives us a lot of options for like comparing stuff. So for instance, let's say when the score hit 2, we want to start spawning more hearts. So let's say greater than or equal to if game attribute getting score. If the score is greater than or equal to the number 2, so that means I have gotten 2 hearts, and then this stuff will start happening. And every heart I get after that, this will still happen. Let's put it in here so it happens when, when a player hits the heart and gets a point. Actually, we could probably make it even another... Oh, interesting. Anyways. There's all kinds of events here that would trigger in interesting ways that are very fun to read through, and I think pretty self-explanatory, so I don't really need to explain them. But anyways, so when a player hits an apple, does all this stuff that we already talked about. If the score is greater than or equal to 2, then we want to do some stuff. What do we want to do? We want to spawn a new heart. Want to spawn a new heart. So actors properties. Surely that is an option. I mean, I had the same problem last time. It was easier in Scratch. Let me create a new actor! Let me in! Let me in! Interesting. Ooh, returns. Returns. That's interesting. Here we go, here we go, here we go. I don't know why it's under scenes. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me. But it's under scenes. Create Apple at and I have a feeling that this will give that that there will be some sort of like random position on screen option. Maybe not. Maybe I'll have to do the same thing I did last time, which is view, world, tile width. So I'm trying right now to find the get a random position on the screen, right? So I wonder if that specifically is an option in Stencil. I'm not really sure. It would take a little digging. Actually, I can search. I don't know why I didn't search earlier. I should have just searched. Screen. Ooh, shake screen. Ooh, that sounds fun. Let's shake the screen. Let's shake the screen for like 0.1 seconds with intensity 10. That'll be fun. It'll like poo, poo, poo every time you get an apple. Off-screen bounds. That's the thing that was killing the actors when they went off screen. Here we go. Screen width. And height, for that matter. Or not even the screen. I actually want the scene width. Yeah, here we go. 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 And we also want a little random. Here we go. Ooh. Here is a concept that did not exist. Wouldn't it be bad feedback? The player might think the parts hurt. They saw that their score went up. It's fine. Up until now, we have only talked about numbers. But there's actually more kinds of numbers than you would think. There's actually lots of kinds of numbers. I mean, even just thinking about fractions and decimals and whole numbers, those are all kinds of numbers. And very similarly, programming has a lot of kinds of numbers that are the same thing as the things I just said. In Stencil, you only need to remember two. And that is a float and an integer. Float is a term that is specifically used in programming. It's, as far as I'm aware, not used outside of programming. And all that means is a decimal number. It means that the number that you're talking about doesn't have to be a whole number. So, you know, 1.5, 10.2, pi, you know, the number pi, 3.14159, blah, 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 blah. An integer is a whole number, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 100, 1,000, 10 million, all whole numbers. But a float can be a whole number. It can't just be 1.0, but it doesn't have to be. So in this case, the screen size will always be a whole number because you can't have half a pixel, or at least in this case we don't. So we want a random integer between 0 and the scene width. Width is X. That will always be true. And height is always Y. So we want another random integer between... my favorite imaginary number? 2I. Scene. Oh, I want to get that scene block back. Scene. I want to get the scene height. Bloop. Oops. Yeah. Between 0 and scene height. So now this will create an apple at this random spot. Whenever we hit an apple and we have more than 2 apples. Let's test the game. Let's see how it works. Did we do it right? Let's find out. And while that's loading, I want to quickly mention that this thing up here, Stencil Forge, is essentially, I believe, free asset store that allows you to download all kinds of assets for your game. But anyways, sounds, music, drawings, sprites, animations, backgrounds. Okay, score of 1. Whoa, wait a second. Oh, that was the shake. That was the shake. You're right, it wasn't very good UX. I completely forgot about the shake. It's a little extreme. I think I need to turn the intensity down a little bit. So we hit a score of 2. What happened? It created a new heart right here. This heart right here. Create a new heart. So every time we get a heart after that, bam, it's gonna create a new heart. Bam, create a new heart. Bam, create a new heart. Boop. Bam. 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 You might notice that at least one of those times that I got a heart, my score went up by 2. Why did my score go up by 2? My score went up by 2 because the heart happened to spawn on top of one of my players. So immediately, I got another heart. We would have to do some programming to fix that. I don't feel like it. That's your homework. See, there you go. It went up by 2. Went up by 1. It went up by 3 that time. I had bad RNG. Or good RNG, I guess, but depending on how you look at it. Oh, look at all the hearts. Okay, this shake is ridiculous. I need to turn that way down, like 2 or 1. I'm gonna turn it to 1. What else can we talk? Oh, Booleans. I'm not done talking about Booleans. There's so much to talk about with Booleans. It's the best. Flow. It's in flow. And let's say that's not the only thing we wanted to depend this if statement on. Let's say we wanted to say if the score is greater than or equal to, and I mean, it could be anything. And I had 6 player actors or something like that. We have this wonderful set of Boolean operators here. And, which is exactly what I just said. So both of those statements would have to be true for that if statement, for this if conditional to run. Right? Just like English. It's just the English meaning. It's exactly what it sounds like in English. Or is another option. Or says one of these 2 things has to be true. They don't both have to be true. They can both be true, but only one of them has to be true. They could both be true, but I'm not doing anything if they're both false. If one of them is true, I'll do it. If both of them are true, I'll do it. But if they're both false, I'm not doing it. It won't do it. And the third one is not. Just like English, it will take whatever the Boolean value is, and it'll flip it. So if I said if score is not greater than or equal to 2, that would be the exact opposite logic than if score were greater than or equal to 2. So by this definition, makes you worry that we're gonna get some nonsense. No, well, yes. Yes and no. If you want nonsense, I'll tell you some nonsense. Here's some nonsense. Let's get some nonsense in here. Okay, throw these out. We don't need these anymore. These two statements are equal to each other. These two statements mean exactly the same thing. The not greater than or equal to is the same thing as less than 2. And that is the logic behind programming. Programming is all about logic, taking these ifs and these Boolean statements and then calling things. Why though? Well, think about it. Let's take an example, for instance. The number 1. Is 1 greater than or equal to 2? It's not. So that would be false. This would be equal to false. Let me grab the false thing. This little guy in here is false. But not false is true. The opposite of false is true. Not, it means you take the opposite of the statement inside of it. Is 1 less than 2? It is in fact less than 2. Both of these statements are equal to each other. Any number you give me, I will get the same Boolean result. And that's just sort of a property of math. People talk about, you know, I'm not good at math. I'll never be able to be a good programmer. But I mean, this isn't math. This is the same logical thought processing as something like Sudoku or something like that. It's not math per se. It's logic, which are two different things. I would like to make the distinction because I'm not a particularly good mathematician. But I do quite like logic, which is a good thing. It's my job. So, the reason I keep emphasizing Booleans is because they're very important. Very important. And they're kind of a foreign concept to someone who's never programmed before. And in fact, when you go to college for programming, you take a whole class in it. I could start telling you about some crazy, stupid, insane stuff where it's like, oh man, if you chain all this together, it's the same thing as this or whatever. You know, it's not helpful though. It's much more helpful to just think about it in plain English terms. It can get a little more tricky in your brain when you start involving numbers, but I mean, the same could be true. This same, you know, logic could be applied to words, which may be more helpful. Where's my equals? Here we go. Comparison equals. This is another important one actually. Comparing values. So it's the same as like greater than or equals to. Yeah, it's, I mean, that's when you get down to like theory and stuff like that. I agree, you would want things to be as clear and concise as possible. For what I want to do, this is the most clear and concise option. I could say not score is less than 2. That would be the same thing as this. But that's horribly unhelpful. This is so obtuse. This is so unclear on what I'm doing. This is the English version. This is the plain, simple, clear logic behind what I want to do. And actually, programmers do have a concept of like beautiful code. They can look at code and say, wow, that code is so simple. There's so few lines, yet it does such incredible things. And oh man, looking at beautiful code is just the best. It's truly just the best. And part of that has to do with, by the way, variable naming. Variable naming is a whole other thing on its own, but anyways, we're gonna talk about comparators. Greater than or equal to? Also a comparator. But this is evaluating whether two things are equal to each other. So, for instance, are these two words equal to each other? Is apple the same word as apple? It certainly is. Trying to think of another word. I don't know how to spell Paul. I don't know how to spell Paul. Okay, whatever. Close enough. These aren't the same word, obviously. If I put a space in it, these are not the same word. If I put apple with a space, it's not the same word. Because you have a space there. They're not the same value. Oh yeah, you didn't know that not statements are a thing? That's when things get kind of weird, actually. I should do a stream one time where I just show you guys all the really weird stuff. Like, oh, actually here they very helpfully name it. So this might seem really strange when you're used to just going through K through 12 learning math. You think, why would I ever want the remainder of two numbers? You know, when you divide one number that doesn't easily divide, and then you're like, what? Well, this is actually an operator called mod. And this operator looks like a percent sign. And it's very helpful. Particularly, its main use is, let's say, for instance, you never want the score. You want the score to loop around. You want the score to never go higher than 10. Once you hit 10, you just go back down to 1. It just loops around, all the way around. This happens frequently, especially because, let's say you want to loop through a list of items. You would take the mod, because you never want to go higher than the number of list in the items. So mod is used very frequently. It's very wonderful, and I love it dearly. I'm not going to bother with it right now, though. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Actually, look at that. We didn't have to do this. Oh, let me out. Let me out. They gave us some shorthand. Set score to score plus 1 is the same thing as... Give me the attribute. Give me the attribute. Oh, wait. What the heck? What's the point of this? What the heck is the point of this? That's so weird. What's the point of that? Well, hypothetically, I would be able to put this game attribute here and it would just increment it by 1, but apparently that's not an option. Thanks, stencil. Oops. So instead, we're just gonna use our little thing that we wrote. I think that I have pretty much covered all of the weird things. I'm just running through these things, looking at if there's anything I missed. I don't think so. Extensions are for like things people actually scripted. Sounds, of course, there's a lot of sound options. You need to add sound to your game, but I don't care. You can even make them go to a website, which is pretty funny. Ooh, oh my gosh, this is actually a very, very powerful thing. I could basically show YouTube chat in my game by doing this. What a hassle that would be to write in stencil. For each, here's a wonderful little loop here. Oh, I don't have a. I'll just do this in the scene one. Anyways, there's a lot of different options. Apply shader. Whoa, different shaders? You can write shaders in stencil? Stencil's so weird. Stencil is so weird. User input, so keys. You could even have players type things into the game, add their own name, for instance. A bunch of these are, by the way, these diamond-shaped ones. That means these are booleans, so these would go into if statements. So based on collision, if I wanted to check if two things were touching, like let's say I wanted to check if more than one player actor were touching the heart, and only then could you collect it. I would have this say when a player hits a heart, and then I would have another if statement that said when a second player is also touching the heart. You can draw shapes. You can just put like straight up images from files and stuff. You can put shaders on 2D objects. Shaders are not necessarily a 3D thing. A shader, by the way, is just the way your screen is drawing an object. I could have a shader on me. Attributes. I didn't mention this. This is actually very, very, very important. I forgot to mention this. We talked about game attributes, and attributes is just what Stencil calls variables. But each actor can have their own attributes. So for instance, I could make it so that each player actor had its own score. Or health would be a great example. Health would be its own attribute. And so that would be in this attributes bar, not the game attributes. Game attributes are quite limited in what they can be. I think they can only be like a boolean, a number, or something like that. But per actor attributes, you have a lot more options. If you click create attribute, you'll see a very big drop-down list of what it can be. And all this does is it stores the value of something so that you can quickly reference it here in your script. For instance, I've created this new attribute that refers to an animation. Let's say when creating, which is when the actor is created, so all the setup stuff, I want to set this idle animation to, and it will give me a list of my animations, or not. Interesting. Maybe I have to type it in. What is the name of that animation? Oh, I'm not in this. I'm in the player. That's why there was no options. I'm gonna delete this and do this in player instead. Yes. Create a animation. I'm just gonna call it animation in all caps. Gosh, that looks awful. Okay. When it starts, set animation. And I have to type the name, which is just idle. I'm gonna copy and paste it. And if it's a valid value, it won't show that little red X. So, and then I could reference this idle animation wherever I want. Now, what you might be saying, why would I want to do that? I could just type the idle animation when I need an animation. Well, let's say for instance, you had a different variation of each animation depending on how hurt you were, how hurt the player was. Well, you would want to save like, or this is a better example. This is a much better example. Let's say you want to play an animation when the player gets hurt. So you say play animation. But then you're like, well, the game says, I don't know what animation to go back to. What animation was I playing before I got hurt? So you're playing, let's say, walking right animation, and you get hurt. So you play the hurt animation. And then you would have your script say, okay, go back to that animation I was doing before, which I saved in this animation attribute. So, yeah, an example for you. What's custom? Oh, return. It's actually another important thing. So like I said, each of these events are actually functions that you can call, that are called by the game. But you could also do a custom one, a custom event. Oh, interesting. Or rather, I meant to say you can call an event. Can you? Code? You can just type code in? Wow. Okay, well, hypothetically, you can call an event. It's somewhere in here. Here we go. Perfect. Trigger event and all behaviors. And you would type the name of the event. Where do you get the return value? Oh, interesting. I wonder what the heck this return is even for. Oh, my camera stopped working again. Oh. Oh, ridiculousness. Tomfoolery. Okay, well. Part of me doesn't want to fix it because we're so close to finishing up, honestly. But let me just show you what we made so far. And then we'll wrap it up here. Tomfoolery! I'm just gonna put it over my face. Oop, nope, that's not my face. No! Okay, whatever, close enough. So exhausting. Okay. So we haven't actually seen what it looks like when we put this all together. Bam. Ooh, I like that shake is good now. Bam. 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 Boop 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 brr brr brr. Wub wub wub. Shh ba ba ba. Come on, come on. Connect, 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 please. For all that is good in the world. Yeah, this looks much better as far as camera shake. I'm getting a good score too. Okay, well, anyways. Enough. Enough! I can't really think of anything else to talk about, especially because I can't figure out what the return value does at all. So funny. Huh. I remember using it too. I can't remember what I used it for. This is so frustrating, I gotta tell you. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Okay. We need to end this before I disconnect again. But, anyways. If you guys aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. If I- Oh! I knew I was shilling myself and decided to disconnect me. Well, anyways. Where's my faces? Oh, I'm back. For some reason that worked. I'm disgusted with VTube Studio. Anyways. Please subscribe to my channel! Sorry, that was so obnoxious. Thank you, I will drink water. When I hit 500 subscribers, I get to, I'm gonna have a big event. I'm gonna have a new streaming form. I'm gonna have a new kind of stream, a new outfit. It's gonna be very exciting, very fun. A lot of exciting things happening, honestly. I'm really excited for it. And I hope you'll join me. Maybe I'll give you a little sneak preview? Sneak preview? For sticking through this tutorial? You guys deserve it. Honestly, you guys deserve it for working this hard, okay? You stuck through it with me this whole time, so here's a little sneak preview. Oh, it's all messed up. Everything's gone to heck. There we go. Let's try that one more time. Kisses for chat for working so hard on stencil. Sneak preview. I'm a very creative person, and I like to do things like animate myself and draw myself and rig myself and rig others. It's fun. And actually very, very soon, very, very, very soon, I'm going to start working on my 3D version so that I can stop being Miku Hatsune in streams, in VR streams. Is that full arm rigging or just a canned animation? Don't worry about it. I can move my arms. What are you talking about? Look at this. Look, look. Could a person who can't move their arms do this? Huh? Fool. So I hope you're subscribed is my point. And tomorrow we're going to be finishing Baccano, which probably doesn't apply to most of you here, but Baccano is my favorite anime, so I'm excited about it. And then after that, we'll be able to go back to, you know, mostly creative streams, but every once in a while, you know, playing video games. And next week I'll do another one of these probably. Maybe I'll do RPG Maker. I don't feel like doing something insane like learning a new engine, which I would probably have to do. I think probably the next real, I say real, the next, well, I don't know. I'm not gonna make any promises. I'm not gonna make any promises. It'll probably be RPG Maker next week though, because I do vaguely remember how to use it. I just need a refresher. So anyways, thank you all for coming. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate that you guys came here to learn new things, and that's really all I care about, honestly, is that people are always being creative, stretching the boundaries of what they think is possible for themselves, because it's possible for anyone to learn anything, given enough time. So even if you felt really lost during this stream, I trust that you'll be able to learn how to learn stencil if you want to. Look up written tutorials are much more helpful because you can go at your own pace. At least for me personally. And I like it because I can like skip steps. But unfortunately, written tutorials are sometimes not as descriptive as you would like, as opposed to like me having the thing in front of you and showing you, pointing to it and describing it. Even though I'm not really a good teacher. Yeah. I want to, if you guys make games with stencil, please, please, please show me. Please send me screenshots and videos. I want to see them. Yeah. It's a great stream, everybody. I'm gonna go watch Gura stream Minecraft now. Have a good night, or morning, or early morning, or afternoon, wherever it is, or however it is where you are. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Oh yeah, having live chat is helpful. You guys can always ask questions, by the way, of course. Goodbye. 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 Where is it? Goodbye. Bye, everybody.